These are the principles that you can extract for your onboarding program. Is if you want a mentorship program, you can't just put out an initiative and say, who would like to be a mentor? You have to find the person that is already in the office all the time so that someone can shadow. You can't just all of a sudden say, hey, you want to be a mentor, and all of a sudden they're going to go from never being in the office to being in the office all the time.
Yeah, the one thing to think about too, when you have your top salesperson or think that person will do it, you don't even know a lot of times that top salesperson is doing everything they should be doing. Like, do you want them to, really, right? Like sometimes top salespeople are so busy, they might be skipping steps. They might be doing things that, you don't know about, but you don't really want them training the person just walking in the door.
I joined a very traditional office where I was the youngest, or second youngest man in that office. The average age is probably 60 plus. My mentor told me to get my butt off the couch when I was unemployed and get my real estate license, and then brought me on, and he did mentor me. And I called the hell out of him and texted the hell out of him. So he got paid from the brokerage. Was it a formal mentorship program? Probably not.
Welcome back to the Reside Platform podcast. Really excited for today's episode because this is the original show, the SPN show, Suneet, Preston, Nick, that transformed into the Reside Platform podcast. I'm here with Suneet Agarwal and Preston Guyton. Today, we're going to be talking about mentorship programs, bringing on new agents, what's happening with the Reside Platform podcast, what's been implemented, and where are we going? We might, if we have time. Keller Williams settles the lawsuit. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about leads and the economy and web traffic and how you can make more sales. So welcome, guys.
What's up, buddy?
Yes. So good to be filming this original SBN show style.
When was the last time we filmed one, I wonder? Just the three
like this.
Yeah.
Before Christmas, probably.
Oh, 100% before Christmas.
Yeah, it's been a while because we've been interviewing so many amazing people. And so if you haven't checked out those interviews, check out the past episodes. People have been talking about
ones in there. Dude, some good ones in there.
Some really good ones.
I mean, founders, CEOs, billion-dollar people, number one teams in multiple states. So check that out. And people are talking about it, our podcast, in Facebook groups.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like scrolling around and say, wait.
That's me.
Well, a lot going on, coming events, in real time and space. We got Maverick coming up in Nashville with Jon Cheplak, and you guys want to talk about that. We also have the Reside Platform. We do private masterminds 2-3 times a year. So I'll be traveling to Baton Rouge to see Preston and Jon.
And me.
And Suneet can't wait. That's his favorite place to go.
I talked to Brittany yesterday. Yes.
Oh, awesome. So we'll be going to Baton Rouge. Let's hit it off. People, Suneet, you got a hold of us and said, what we're hearing is people are asking about mentorship programs and also bringing on new agents. And so let's start with you.
Really quickly, I am just looking up the date for the Maverick event and all the details for everybody.
March 22nd.
March 22nd.
So it's cheplakmaverick.com. March 22nd and 23rd at Music City Center in Nashville. A lot of the people either staying at Omni or Weston, which is right in the middle of everything. So if you want to explore Nashville while you're there, it's a great place to stay.
Great city.
Center is right in the middle of everything. So it's a really cool.
And it's pretty dope, right? Like,
what's that?
It's a nice place. It's a nice place.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's cheplakmaverick.com, everybody. So make sure you check it out. Super value, like all the speakers. We got our boy Nick McLean speaking. We got Travis Halverson speaking. We got Brittany Pino speaking. Steve Myers, Brandon Brittingham, bunch of people. So it'll be a good one. Rick Jennings, yeah.
Oh yeah, Bridget.
Preston is speaking too? Both of you
Yeah,
guys speaking?
Travis and I are speaking together.
Oh, cool.
We're doing a case study on leads.
Dude, good. And then Nick, are you speaking with Brittany on the something?
Yeah, so Brittany and I have been working on, we did the listing program. I did a listing program years ago, and Brittany's one of the top teams to adopt that and make it better. I mean, she has this white glove listing process that's phenomenal. So she's going to be speaking on that, and I'll be speaking on listings as well.
That's so cool. And I'll be not my favorite place in the world. I'll be by Preston in South Carolina.
South Carolina. You'll be in Charleston.
I'll be in Charleston. Thank you.
Exactly. You'll be in Mount Pleasant. If you want to know where you're going to be, just ask me.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So mentorship.
Yes.
We were talking about topics, and I've been getting a lot of questions about mentorship kind of always. And I think it's really interesting for us to talk about it here because Preston has a unique, efficient way to do it at scale. And Nick has his way, which is documented. We did the course, and he's actually doing onboarding for a lot of people, which is helping in that process. And then I have kind of a mix of the both. So that's great for us. Let's go backwards because a lot of the listeners are still trying to figure it out, right? Like Preston just started out right. He just went for it, right? But many of the teams that are listening and watching and reside and in coaching is a rainmaker agent who wants to bring on agents to form a team. And part of that is bringing on more unexperienced agents. And how do you get them onboarded and through their deals while still being a rainmaker and doing everything that you have to do, right?
Question for y'all. Did y'all go through a mentorship program when you got into real estate?
Let me tell you about mine. I joined a very traditional office where I was the youngest, our second youngest man in that office. The average age was probably 60 plus. My mentor was my boy. Shout out to Tom Leonard, my boss in mortgage. One of my best friends told me to get my butt off the couch when I was unemployed and get my real estate license, and then brought me on. And he did mentor me. And I called the hell out of him and texted the hell out of him. So he got paid from the brokerage. Was it a formal mentorship program? Probably not.
Yeah, that's how mine was. So I came on, I was one of the youngest people in the brokerage, which was 20 years ago.
But you were like 20, right?
Yeah, I was like 24.
Yeah, I was 38 and I was one of the youngest people there.
So,
A lot like these agents coming on teams.
yeah, and I was assigned somebody at the brokerage I came on to for 6 months.
But it wasn't somebody that you knew, unlike me, right?
Yeah, I did not know them. Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the agents would sign up for the mentorship program. They'd get paid like 10% of gross commission income.
Sure.
But was with them for 6 months and then moved on after that.
Why was it 6 months? Is that what the agreement was?
Yeah, that was, if I remember correctly, it was a 6-month mentorship program is what they ran. And you would go alongside them with listings and everything else. I did not have a very good mentor. So it...
Oh, you did it.
Well, see, no one ever talks about that side of it. So we can talk about the unintended consequence of a mentorship program.
Yeah, I did not have... I mean, I'm more of a figure it out myself type person though. So
Sure.
Probably partly on me. But I was just hit it running hard right away, and it just wasn't the best setup.
Well, yeah. When I came on real estate, I joined a broker, an independent broker, and I just shadowed him everywhere. It wasn't formal. I was just his shadow. It wasn't even, hey, come shadow me. I was just like, I'm your shadow.
Yeah, and that's what I'm.
He got up, I got up. He sat down, I sat down. He got in his car, I got in his seat with him.
Yep.
I went everywhere he went for you.
That's how
Self-starter.
Yeah, when I left, Caldwell Banker was the company. So I was only with them for 6 months. I went and worked for a guy that I actually used to bust tables for when I worked in restaurants growing up. And he got into the real estate business back then, but he was only in the real estate. He was managing restaurants and working in real estate. But at this time, he had his own real estate company. He was doing developments. So I went to work for him, and I sat in his office for 4 or 5 years beside him. In the same, it was a big office. It was like a 20 by 20 big open space. But I was in the, so I was, and that was huge because every meeting he had, every person he talked to on the phone, I listened to everything. Rode around with him, got in the car with him, learned sales from him. I was not the most chasing, I wasn't great on the phone. I mean, he helped me with all those things. So, and got better at that. But
dude, when I first started, well, you guys have heard the story. I didn't have internet in my house because I couldn't afford it, right? So I drove to the office every day and I put on like dress clothes and sat next to the managing broker for 2 years. Yeah. And just sat next to him. I showed up almost every day. I'd be the only person in there sometimes, dressed up, annoyed I was wearing slacks. And I only have like 2 pairs, the 3 shirts, right? Dressed up, but I showed up every friggin' day, dude.
Oh yeah.
And I got to meet everybody, and I got to learn like all this stuff. I remember I was walking through the hall, and this agent, Veronica Hunter, who's a great friend, she was like on the computer. She's like, "Hey, look at this." And she showed me what a CRM and like an IDX in the same circle as it, just randomly for me showing up in the office. And I was like, wait, there's tech that can do this? No one was talking about that in my office. So showing up every day, I think really helped me. And then all these agents in there, they start throwing me deals and leads. They're like, hey, this house is in a challenged area. $50,000 listing. Like, you want it? I'm all, sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. These are the principles that you can extract for your onboarding program. Is if you want a mentorship program, you can't just put out an initiative and say, who would like to be a mentor? You have to find the person that is already in the office all the time, so that someone can shadow. You can't just all of a sudden say, hey, you want to be a mentor, and all of a sudden they're going to go from never being in the office to being in the office all the time. So like Preston, you have a mentorship program, Agents Excellence Program, which we have a course in Reside, right? And everyone.
And I think we have a whole episode where we go deep on it.
Yeah, that's really. We don't have to go deep in it, but your main point of contact who runs the mentorship program or excellence program, are they consistently available? Are they consistent? Talk about that consistency that you need in a mentor.
Yeah, so when we opened up, that was going to be our biggest recruiting. It was something that before we even opened the doors, we talked about it, like having somebody and run it. Like, he owns it. All the questions go to him. He gets paid through the first 5 transactions to be available for all those agents. I think we brought in 55 through that Agent Excellence Program last year. We have a class now. There's 10 going through it. So he's 55. There. 55 last year. Yeah, so we have majority of our company went through, looking at our roster now, over 50% went through that Agent Excellence Program. So
that's a huge win.
But he's available, so he's available.
He's available. He owns it. He built it. We worked together to come up with everything. All of us did. And yeah, he's the guy. Like, he's the got a minute guy, but he knows that. I looked at it last month. We had 16 contracts from the Agent Excellence Program.
Oh, dude, huge.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing is that's awesome. And same with me. I have Anna Stender. It's her birthday, and she's going out of town today on a surprise trip with her boyfriend. And I told everyone on the huddle, if you have any questions, ask me. I want Anna to have fun. And she's like, no, do not ask Suneet. It doesn't matter. Call me now. But so for us, this is great, but we're different. If you were starting over and you were the Rainmaker team leader, Preston, and you didn't have the budget to bring on an employee to do that.
Well, the way you got to look at it, I always look at how you compensate somebody and you really want to compensate them based on actually proving and getting getting contracts and closings. So Trip's heavily compensated on how successful that Agent Access program is. So you got to have, if you do something like that, it's not where you could throw $100,000 a year salary out there or even half of that. You need to make sure somebody's bought in and understands, hey, if I help build this, right now it's probably going to suck because my income, obviously, you're not going to put people in the class right away and see a bunch of closings happening. But 12 months from now, I mean, with 16 contracts in a month and he's getting a large percentage of the gross commission income, he's going to do very well.
Good.
So you got to get somebody. It's going to be very difficult to do it yourself as a team leader. Like, you're not going to have the time unless you move out of showing property and actually sales. But if you can find somebody that buys into it and buys into the vision of what you're trying to do, then that's when you can bring somebody on. But you want to heavily compensate them based on the success of it, not just to get a paycheck. Because somebody's looking for just a paycheck.
When I really started growing the team, or maybe not really, but the second big growth phase, I'll be completely honest with anyone that asks, including any of my agents. I have not been a realtor long enough to be proficient at the contract. Okay, so I'm not the contractual guy. I like being in my space. So not being on my space, although I did like that too, but I like being in the space that I like to be in. There's a little joke for everybody. But the second full-time hire that I hired was a TC, an admin, who happened to be really proficient in the contract. So since she was TCing a lot of the deals anyways, for the people listening, she served as kind of the contractual got-a-minute person for questions, right? So if you have one, you can do the foundation of a mentorship program between having a good key person like that who's incentivized on, like Preston was saying, incentivized on GCI, and then has some kind of salary for doing something else. That as you grow, that grows, right? But I mean, I think that way is superior than asking 2 or 3 of your agents in your team in your operation to be that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see this with TCs too. Oftentimes it is this mentor comes from the operational side, not the sales side. Everyone looks at the top producer. I want to mentor. They think a mentorship program is a sales manager that's going to help them make more calls, role play, sales. Maybe it is. But I see a mentorship program as the got-a-minute. How do I write that contract? How do I get the amendment? How do I get the deal closed? And for me, that came from the transactional management side, listing coordination side. Kim elevated herself into a managing broker level. And
so same with you, right? Like that was your person.
Yeah. I mean, I think the mentorship program kind of can emerge with as leadership comes on. Preston had that vision from day one, which is smart.
Yeah.
My background, my vision of a mentorship program is a lot of it has to do with structure and the organizational structure. And I think a lot of teams don't even have a vision of what their team looks like at their goal. Like my goal is $150 million in sales. Okay, great. What does your organizational chart look like? How many agents do you have? And what are their levels of experience? And what staff do you have to support those people? They have no vision. They have a vision of a goal, but it's just a number, but they don't really have clarity on what that looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a firefighter. I was a wildland firefighter. I fought fire during college. And we were part of an initial attack crew. There was 20 people on the crew. So there's a crew, 20 of us, right? And then within the 20 of the crew, we would be broken up into 4 teams of 5, right? Each team of 5 had one leader, and that leader reported to the crew boss, right? So there was a chain of command, right? The lower new people looked up to the team leader, and then the team leader communicated with the crew boss. The crew boss didn't have to go down and help the newbies. So that just simple structure allowed me to day one on the job, look, I knew who I could turn to with a question. I knew who I had to follow. I think teams are no different.
Yeah, dude. I mean, 100%. Like, to take that down, like, if you have a mentorship program and you're a team of 5 agents, like, don't just put one person, have 2 people be mentors. Spread it out, because you're going to find the more support that you have there, the better. You don't want to overburden a producer.
Well, we know in recruiting, how often have you recruited an agent and they're willing to talk to you now because they're frustrated because they can't get a hold of somebody to get answers?
No.
So the one thing to think about too, when you have your top salesperson or think that person will do it, you don't even know a lot of times that top salesperson is doing everything they should be doing. Like, do you want them to really, right? Like, sometimes top salespeople are so busy, they might be skipping steps. They might be doing things that, you don't know about, but you don't really want them training the person just walking in the door. And I think from training that person in transaction management, a lot of times they kind of funnel into operations because they're going to be an operational mindset. Somebody like that makes a lot more sense to be training people than somebody that's 100 transactions in a year and they might be skipping steps.
They don't want to slow down either to necessarily help.
They don't have the patience, really. They're high D's, they're goers, they're relentless workers.
Yeah.
They have relentless follow-up. They can never turn it off. And that's the reason why they're top producers.
Yeah.
I mean, their speed to lead is amazing. And so all these little things get them the results, but that's not everybody. And just because you make that person a mentor doesn't mean it's going to replicate itself.
Just because they're the best agent on your team too, like Preston said, like.
Now they have
credibility. Guys, but my best agents don't update follow boss as much as they should. They never have. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they will sign up for it because they want to make more money, and they hear, I'll make 10% or 20% or whatever they're doing. Sure, I could do it. And then all of a sudden they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And that was the situation I was in. It was the person I was mentoring under just didn't have the time with everything she had going on, in her personal life and professional life. So that's really why it wasn't a good setup for me at first.
Well, let's transition to bringing on new agents, because oftentimes with a new agent, just because you don't have an official mentorship program doesn't mean a new agent can't be paired up with or connected with or shadowed, introduced with somebody that's willing to help. I mean, part of being a team and the team culture is contribution and helping people, right? So how do you guys handle bringing on new agents? Obviously the Agent Excellence Program, but any thoughts on that, Suneet, Preston, bringing on new agents?
Yeah, I mean, so they don't necessarily have to be paired with one person, though. Like, if you build a culture around sharing and helping each other out, like a lot of our agents, what I see happening is they'll come in, but there's so many people in the office calling and doing all the things. There's always somebody available willing to help. So if you build a culture around, like, hey, I'm going to jump in and help this person that needs help, you don't necessarily have to assign them to somebody. Smaller companies you might need to, but if you build and make that a primary focus of helping each other all the way, and as your company grows, you don't really need an assignment. And for us, like the newer agents that don't go through AEP have experience, so they're not going to be a brand new agent to the business.
I mean, part of that, like for us, is our Slack channel, my free Slack channel. Free version for everyone that has never heard me say that before. The free version of Slack, we use it and it's super. Everyone wants to contribute and help. Someone asks a question, 20 people will give a response. So
that you bring up a good point, Suneet, on what's that apparatus or the technology people use to connect, to get the answers.
And also having an LMS type system where you do have the trainings and video everything you're doing, simple things, right? Like turning on follow-up boss, logging in, creating a contact, all those little things, because what's easy, and I think we all forget how we were at one point, how some of those things were difficult, where it's so easy, we just don't even think about it now. So actually recording the videos of the steps and everything from beginning to end, so then they do have that library.
I mean,
and then when they come to you with a question, have some restraint and don't give them the answer.
Correct.
It seems easy just to spoon feed them the answer because then it goes away. But then when they come back, you got to take a step back and say, what do you think the answer is?
Speaking of LMSs, our new one is almost done for Reside, and it's going to be sick.
Yeah.
They've been working on it.
Let's talk about what are the updates of the Reside platform?
Yeah, I mean, the new LMS is going to be lights out and incredible. Just the functionality, like reporting on who actually shows up, reporting on completion, the ability to add your own stuff. It's like lights out. So very excited about that. Shout out to the team.
Take a step back on what is an LMS?
Learning Management System. And here's a funny story. Barry Jenkins and I, 7 years ago, we were talking every day. Barry, great guy, great team leader, and smart dude. We're all, hey, we're bringing on a bunch of agents. What are you doing for training? He's like, I know, we're going to do a Trello board. And he made it, and I took it, and I copied his for like 3 years. There's these videos of him, and it was great. But then as you build your own stuff, you need your own, like, our models ended up being different. So we built it out, do the recordings, like Preston says, have an outline. If you want to upgrade, there's plenty of systems out there. I have my opinions on all of them, but it's worth doing.
And we created one at Reside.
Yeah, we created an incredible one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so really looking forward to that. And then more announcements. We have some new people with us in the organization, Preston, since you've been key in hiring the two of them, the two that I'm talking to. And why don't you talk about it?
Yeah. So, Travis Halverson, he's in my market. He actually has been with us with Cheplak Digital for about a year, coaching and training teams. And I talk to him every day through text and phone calls or whatever. And had been talking about this, and he came on with Reside and is helping all the teams and agents. Like, he does a team leader training when they come on for a follow-up boss, and he does an agent training. He's supposed to do about, just to give you an idea of how Travis is, he's supposed to do about 30 to 35 hours a month with Reside teams. I looked it up. He did 84 hours last month. So just to give you an idea of how he is, but I mean, there's not anybody else that's more talented than him from a conversion standpoint. As an ISA last year, he closed 110 transactions on leads he handed off. So he's helping the teams understand follow-up boss and training in the CRM and doing all those things for where they can convert at a higher level and making a lot of these teams realize where they're missing opportunities. And it's pretty obnoxious when you dig into these CRMs and the amount of money that teams are missing out on. We were looking at a report yesterday. The team had 1,440 contacts out of cadence that at one point said, hey, we want to buy something in the next 180 days. 1,480, it was, I think, 1,480. And the number was $845 million they were missing out on because they were allowing their agents to not communicate with the amount of time the stages are supposed to be at, right? Like yeah. It's
anxiety.
It's a brutal report, and they get a daily report from that. So yeah, he came on. It's funny. I'm in my office now. I told him to go upstairs because we share an office together. He's usually over there, but he's actually
I know. I figured he's not in there right now.
Yeah, he lives upstairs from our office, and he wakes up in the morning, rolls out of bed. He actually goes to the gym now in the morning at 6 a.m. Comes
Good
back.
shit.
Yeah, and he's in here every day. As soon as I get here, he's on the computer and doing what he loves. So, which is amazing. Is amazing for the Reside teams because a lot of people pay a lot of money for that. And he's helping every single team in Reside and having calls with them. The other hire we brought on was Lauren, who's a client success manager, and she's got a huge background. I shared this with Nick yesterday. He didn't respond to it, but she was with a she was with a team in Vermont. They had 37% market share. and she was part of that team from the very beginning. She handled transactions, she handled management, she handled admin management. So she's been from beginning to end with teams and she's an operations person. Like, she sent an end of the day email yesterday that you want everybody in operations to send.
Why? Can I get copied on those?
Yeah, I'll have her copies from now on.
100%. Yeah, when I saw the end of day report from Lauren, it was wow. I mean, I think she wanted to wow us with that too, and she said this is a little bit more detailed than I normally will. But when you read something like that, it made me think anyone in North America would hire her on the spot if they could.
100%
on your team. And Reside Platform has Lauren as a client success manager who's going to, from day one of joining Reside and then ongoing for the life of the client with Reside, have access to this high level operator that can do transactional management over multiple states, can help you out with your systems and your procedures, and make sure you're getting the absolute most value out of the Reside platform.
Yeah, and the one thing she talked about, she's like, okay, I'm finishing up my job description, because we said, you're going to come in and look at everything and see. But she's like, hey, I really want to build this admin training for all the teams where I could train all of our admins on what our admins need to be doing. That wasn't something we asked her to do. It's something she came in and said, hey, I see this as a need, because she's on all the coaching calls with me on all the team leaders, because I wanted her to get engaged with the teams and understand what we're doing from the meeting standpoint and everything else. And she was on all the trainings this week as well. But and the teams see it, they're very thankful, like, holy, she is what I needed, which I have heard a lot of them say. So super excited.
That's so great.
Yeah.
She got to see 2 of my trainings this week. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting to see because you were doing these monthly, we're talking to our Reside clients all the time, and just diving into people's business and their financials and what they're spending money on, every single expense. We're able to, I'm seeing we're able to trim a lot of the expenses away and then focus on what really matters, like the database, the leads they have, Preston, the pay-per-click marketing, dialing that in, lower cost per lead, higher conversion rate, and it's going to really pay off.
Yeah, I've looked at everybody's calendar, and I've put recruiting on everybody's calendar.
Yeah.
So
it takes, sometimes it takes a couple meetings before they actually start.
So yeah, Reside has lots of cool things that we're updating, mainly the leads and the database. And let's kind of talk about leads for a second, then we can talk about Keller Williams settling on a lawsuit. With the economy, we had Resi Club is a really cool source for data. We had Lance Lambert on the show a while back. He puts out really great content, and he posted recently the seasonally adjusted mortgage purchase applications fall 11%. So seasonally adjusted mortgage purchase applications, not a good sign for the economy in terms of loan applications. Probably because of this, we'll talk about this, strained affordability, not a lot of churn, low inventory in many marketplaces. And then another one is the forecast models that expect mortgage rates to slowly decrease from Fannie Mae, and the Mortgage Bankers Association predict that rates will go from about 6.4 to 6.9 down to 5.5 by the end of 2025. So over the next
Goldman too put that out.
What's that?
Goldman put that out too.
So they're expecting over the next 2 years rates to go down 1%. Will obviously help affordability, but we don't know because of prices. What's your guys' take on? What's your take on that, Suneet? And what are you seeing with leads, traffic in your market and all of the Reside clients we work with?
I look at recruiting leads a lot more these days.
Yeah.
However, I'm always looking at conversion, and honestly, like for lead data, I'm really curious not to pass the ball. But Preston looks at more lead data than both of us, right? Like how many leads is is Cheplak Digital generating a month right now?
So last month we generated.
It's a big friggin' number. Yeah, I do that for you.
I think 21,000 leads.
21,000 leads last month across multiple states, multiple markets, California, Florida.
All across North America. So we have clients in Canada as well.
Oh, Canada too.
Yeah.
Okay. So 21,000.
Yeah, and what we see, it's the same thing. I've looked at these numbers for so long, and it's a little obviously adjusted based on a heavier buyer market. You're going to see a lot more leads, but it's the seasonality. Like every single year, Christmas Day is the lowest lead count, and the following day doubles, and it continues to go up. It'll go up towards the end of January. It dips back in February, then it ramps back up in March. When you talk about like interest rates, I think the applications are down because there was a lot of people jumped when rates did dip down. They submitted a bunch of applications. So if they're comparing to last month, they're going to be down. But leads, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of coming in. I see a lot of conversations across all the accounts. I see it with Easy Home Search. I see it with Cheplak Digital. I see, a lot of people out there are communicating. Yesterday alone, we moved in just the one database. We moved 51 leads to the nurture stage based on communication, and we moved 5 to appointments because they were buying within 3 to 6 months. So I see the conversations getting better and better, and the lead count. People are still searching. They're going to always search. So
traffic has not changed outside of what you expect.
No, it's seasonality. It's the same. Yeah, it's going to historically.
How about CPO? Cost per lead.
Our national average right now over the last 30 days is $10.98 a lead.
That's good.
Well, there's something I've seen too, Preston, is there's leads, right? There's traffic, which people are always searching. They're interested in real estate for sure. And then there's engagement of the lead and like the communication. So if you send a lead, quote unquote, a text, an email,
mm-hmm.
the seasonality dictates whether or not they're going to respond as well. You send a lead, a new property alert the day before Christmas. They're on holiday. They're probably not going to respond. But what I'm noticing now with the weather and the seasonality, you send them a listing alert or like, hey, did you see this property? And they're like, oh, thanks for sending that. Like, so they're engaging more. So what you told me about, like, you're moving leads through the pipeline, is that what you're seeing? The leads are being able to be moved through the pipeline more efficiently or easily.
Yeah. Yeah, an engaged database, if you engage with their database, you're going to have better conversations. Your agent's going to have better conversations. You're not going to piss as many people off because you understand which one are open the emails, which ones are responding. Those are the ones you call. So I always tell people, if you want to actually have more conversions, talk to your database more. And we talk about that all the time. But a crazy number that I pulled up, because we just started doing auto e-alerts with Easy Home Search. And in the last 2 weeks, the alerts we've been sending out, and they compound. They're like, we're sending 2,500 a day. We're getting about 65 to 70% open rate on those e-alerts. So when I hear people say, oh, everybody sends e-alerts, well, yeah, but people do open them. So don't believe when people say everybody.
So you're seeing 75. So
65 to 75% unique open rates.
So let's just call it 70%.
Yeah.
And what's the age of the lead, or is it across the entire database?
No, these are just, so the way our auto e-alert sets up is based on the zip code they search if they don't automatically set one up, and it sends every 3 days. So it sends Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they get an e-alert. We're always in your e-alert. We've changed it. We've changed the subject line. We've played around with it. The one we landed on, we're having the most success, is the one we're running now. It's Homes You'll Love from easyhomesearch.com. So it's Homes You'll Love from easyhomesearch.com.
I love subject lines. One of my favorite things in the world. Thank you.
Yeah, and we tested like 8 or 9 of them, and that was the one we saw the most success with. And so that goes out. It's automated. There's always a call to action in it. Like anything else I send out, there's always a call to action for them to do something. So for us, we're always, whoever that lead is assigned to, their information is in the alert. Like if you have more questions, please reach out to whatever agent at this company, at this email, at this phone number, if you want local real estate knowledge. But yeah, we've seen I mean, the amount of opens and that's the way you got to communicate. Like when you think about communication and how it's going to change over the next 12 months, it's going to get harder and harder to talk to people on the phone. It's going to get harder and harder to text people on the phone. So what do we got to do? You really got to look at in website or in-app communication, right? Because you don't have to have any opt-in to have in-app or website communication. So it's going to have to happen in a way to where you could get in front. So that's really what we're pushing is like, how can we communicate? What are we going to do on the app side to have that communication within the site?
Yeah, you have to be looking at like these engagement scores for your leads for next step.
Yeah.
Right? And if that means that they open up 3 emails, then great.
I mean, you almost got to look at like when somebody creates an account, almost like a Slack where you could communicate with them, but within a site. Like you're on the app, you can communicate.
Good, that's gold. Everyone, play that part back and listen to what Preston just said again, because that is gold right there.
You got to audit your database, your leads here, and look at it. If I went to someone's database, I would look at their leads, and I would say the first thing I'd look at is, of your leads, what's your e-alert look like? Do you have e-alerts set up on every lead? I promise you, I've looked at all these teams across the country. They don't have e-alerts set up. No. And you may think that it was automated. It's just automatically done by your provider. So I don't know who you're with your CRM, your website, and they told you they have an e-alert that automatically gets assigned. Well, what they don't tell you is sometimes that e-alert's only good for so long.
Yeah, sunsets after.
It's sunsets. See, Preston, people don't know this. And the reason it sunsets, mainly meaning, right, like after a year, the e-alert sunsets, so it's gone. Why would
it used to be shorter, but yes.
Yeah, so a lot of them are 6 months.
6 months. So let's explain why. These CRMs or website companies, they have to buy servers or rack space on the cloud, and it costs money and it's data. So they're just lowering their cost, because if they had all of these millions and millions of leads, they'd be sending all these emails, and they have to pull the data from the CRM, from the Rets feed, and they got to, put it through the system, the code, and then send it out, right? So they sunset.
And the deliverability, right? They're worried about that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the IP scoring, like the scoring of that domain, the scoring of the sender. If you're sending out a bunch of emails that never get opened, it's hurting your deliverability. So that's part of it as well. Like they're doing that because a lot of, and that's, when you get into like email deliverability and those things, like, and obviously it's a different subject, but if you're with a company and they did not authenticate their email and you're an agent, you might have a problem. So the leads that you have in your database might not even be receiving what you're sending. So it's good if you're with a team or company to make sure the team or company are doing the things where your emails actually end up in the inbox for these leads that you're trying to communicate with. But when you talk about that, the one area I see, like I've seen a lot in databases where a lot of people fall down, is they have these stages, but they're not looking at the stages and making sure the agents are communicating based on the stage. Like they'll have showing homes, writing offers. You go in that stage and all of a sudden they have 500 leads. And if you're looking at it from a team leader standpoint, you want to be able to look at that and say, okay, I have 300 leads in this stage. I should be able to close over the next 90 days, 10% of those, right? 10% you should be able to, actually in a stage of writing offers or showing homes. Well, look in that stage, or if you have hot, whatever you're using, and then filter out how many of those leads in that stage have not been communicated in the last 30 days. It will hurt your feelings. It will hurt your feelings, and you'll want to fire every agent in your office.
Yeah.
So those are, that's something when you talk about leads, like you don't always need more leads. And that's, I think we do a good job of that. We tell people, they'll come to me like, what does my budget need to be? Well, what's your database look like now? Let's dig in there and see what we could find, and then worry about adding leads later.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing you can do with the categories, I think a lot of when it comes to training, right? Because that's my core competency is agent onboarding, agent training. A lot of that's the lead follow-up process is run a team meeting. And instead of telling them, ask them, hey, here are the stages we have, right? Here's the stages we have in follow-up boss or CRM. Let's start with this one. Everybody, what does it mean? You want to hurt your feelings? Ask them, what does it mean? What does nurture mean to you? What do you think that means?
Yeah, you got to document it. Like all of ours are documented. They're documented. Every single stage is staged and exactly what that stage is. And it's documented at the top of our Facebook group. There's a documentation on exactly what the lead stages
they can reference, so they know what it's worth.
Dude, mine's in the contract, right? Yeah. Mine's in the contract too. Like you sign off on it when you join.
So there's no question they know what the stages mean, right? And I think a lot of teams need to go and audit their team and go, is there any questions about what these things mean?
Oh yeah, it's a weekly training. Like you got to have a weekly training around that because you have new agents coming in, whatever. There's excuses always. Have a weekly training, what it is. Make sure you don't have 465 stages. You don't need more than 12 stages because everybody wants to create a stage for every. Oh, I have, should I create a stage for neighbors? No, the hell.
Out of town SOI.
It's going to go into that stage and it's never going to be touched. The more stages you have, the more chance they're not going to speak.
Yeah.
The more ponds you have, the more chances they're not going to speak to them.
Yeah.
Simplify it and just, inspect what you expect. That's it.
Oh man, it sounds like we could dive into lead follow-up procedures for days. We just uncovered something. I know Suneet has to run. We have to run and meet with our Reside clients and our multiple businesses.
I actually do. Yeah. I have Reside calls like right now, all day. Yeah.
So wrap it up, Suneet.
Yeah. I mean, I really learned a lot today, which I love. That's like one of the best parts about doing this. So I hope all the listeners and viewers learned a lot too. If you want more information about anything we talked about, Maverick, Cheplak Digital, Reside Platform, we'll make sure to leave the links in the notes, right? And if you got something out of it, make sure you like it, subscribe, and share with a friend. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Reside Platform podcast.
See y'all.